Hey guys, D from Tech Shop 82 here, and today I'm going to be replacing the battery on this Vector. In my previous video, I'd replaced the screen, but on this one, I'm going to take it apart and I'm going to be trying out. Typically, I would do the 50, 30, 40, 600 mAh battery, but I'm going to be trying out this smaller one, the 60, 30, 35, 600 mAh battery. This is the one I actually use in Cozmo just because it fits better. It's not a tight fit. For the 50, 30, 40, it fits okay in Vector. There's space in there. But I wanted to see if this one would also give me the same runtime as this one. There are times where you get a smaller battery, and even though the capacity is the same, the runtime is not. But this will just let me know whether or not I can just get this one battery instead of having two in stock. So I'm going to take this guy apart and I'll just show you how that's done. And for this one, all you need is a Phillips number 00 screwdriver and then a flathead screw. This is just helps with taking the arms apart. And then also you need a soldering iron and solder to remove the current battery. So I always start with the arms. Take the flathead screw and stick it in there and just pop that side out. And then do it on the other side. Oh, no, I want you to turn on. So I'm just going to turn you off. And then for here, I rotate it, and then this part here, that kind of, the part that snaps out, I just pinch that down and then slide it out on the other side. And then you rotate this up, lift this out, it only comes out through those grooves, and then do the same on the other side. And I'll just put that over here. And then let's go ahead and do the wheels. So take the threads off. And then with the flathead, just go through the slot here and then raise that out. It comes out. The first time you do this, it might be a bit difficult. I've done this, I believe, on this guy before, so that's why it's kind of easy. But just pop that out and then it comes out. Do the same on the other side. And then with your screwdriver, remove the screws. And do this next one. Just like with Cozmo, all the screws that you will encounter outside of the ones on the wheels, they're all the same. So you don't need to keep track of which one you took out. As long as you just make sure you put the same amount of screws that you took off back. And between the two robots, Cozmo is the quickest to take apart because it has less screws, but it's the most difficult to solder the battery on just because it has that plastic shroud where the battery contacts are. It's more difficult to solder that on Cozmo than it is with Vector. So I've taken the wheels off, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws on this side, and then just 1, 2 screws on this side. There's no screw here. So go ahead and take those out. And like I said, they're all the same kind, so you don't have to worry which one you took out. And let's take this, put that there. Now, you don't have to pop this out. You can just leave it attached. There's no need to. So I'm going to just leave that there because I don't need to take it apart. And then just keep that screw there. So I've taken that one, that one, that one, Taking all the screws. Oh, this one here. And the back just comes off. Now we can't take this off yet because it's attached to two screws behind the head. So the head is what we're gonna tackle next. So just pop the ears out. And then this is another part where I use that flat head. I just go where that screw is here and raise it up and just go around, take that off. Unlike Vector, you only have to do one side, but sorry, unlike Cozmo, you only have to do one side to take the screws off and you can take the head apart. But on Vector, you have to do both sides. This is the minimal amount of screws you need to take apart to just swap out the battery. With Cozmo, you can get away with just doing one side, but with Vector, you have to do both sides just because of how the head's different. So I'll do this. I'll put that over there. And then for the head, you just separate the sides. Now, do be careful with the screen. It's very fingerprint prone, so don't touch it. And then just lift the head a bit. And then here, I just pry very gently. Go side to side till this comes out. If it doesn't come out that easily, take that flathead and then just gently push and push. The reason why I say gently is because you don't want to use too much force and then break any of these contacts because it'll be a pain to try and fix that. So I'm going to put the head over there, and then all that's left are 1, 2, 3 screws, the one in the neck. So I'll take the neck one out. Here's another difference between Vector and Cozmo is this screw here on Cozmo is much longer than the other screws in Cozmo, but in Vector all the screws are the exact same length. So it doesn't matter which one where you place them, just put them somewhere. Okay, I have my soldering iron on and heated up and ready to go. So here, so take out the back ribbon cable and just put that there. And then here, you just want to separate them like so. So just pull it apart. The counterweight will fall out the back, and then you can just put this to the side. Now, you don't need to take this out. You don't need to take this out. If you're going to do a deep cleaning or something like that, then you could. And the same thing applies. Once I tried to pull this out and the whole socket came off the board. So if you're going to take this off, make sure you go gently side to side and lift on each side and gently pull it off. If you try and use too much force, you might rip the entire pads and this comes off. So just be careful with that. But to change the battery, all you need to do now is just flip this over, and there you have complete access to it. What I do at this point is I get my helping hands and I just place it like this. So I have full access to the board, and these are the solder points. It's the original 320 battery. So what I'm going to do is just take my soldering iron. I'm going to add a little solder on the contact points, because sometimes the solder they use here is not low melt, but this one is. And then that just came off. And then, so that one's off. And then I'm just going to take that other one off. So I have the original battery. Although it looks like it's in good shape, they can look like this, but they only last like 5 minutes off the charger. Now I just need to take this silicon protection stuff off this one and put it on here. And what this does is if you swap these without putting this on the battery, it can, when your battery's in use, it will heat up. And then these components on here, I believe on here, there's a sensor that detects how hot Vector is getting. And it could falsely state that Vector is overheating. So this acts kind of as a barrier between the battery and that sensor. You can use a heat gun to try and take it off, but you can just use your hands and rip it off. And then I'm just going to put this like so on the back. And then I'm going to get this one ready to be placed there. So I'm going to tin the ends, and then I'm going to connect them to the terminals there. So I'm just using the spool as a helper. I'm just going to tin here. And tin this one also. Put a lot of solder on here. And then all I do is I just bring it in. Vector is so much easier to solder. I don't have to worry about any plastic bits getting in the way. So that one's there. And then for the other side, I can just go ahead and place it here like this. Well, let me move it up a bit. And then I will solder these points together. I need a third arm to help. Just keeps moving. Okay. And that's it. So we have our positive and negative contact soldered, and then I just go ahead and place this here like so. Put the wires underneath, and then it's done. So now reassembly. So because we didn't take any of those any of these off, it's just a simple matter of just putting this back in. Get the counterweight. Don't forget that. And this is what I was saying about there being space. So this one is smaller. This one is larger. It still fits, but it's like almost a perfect fit. But this one just has more wiggle room, and I just want to see how well this performs compared to the 50-30-40. So put this back in like so. Oh, now you kind of put it together and then rotate it, and then you want to put this insert in before you close it. With I keep saying Vector. With Cozmo, you can put them together and then insert this afterwards. But with Vector, you have to put it in beforehand. So I want to make sure this cable is in the channel and doesn't get pinched when you close them together. So, like I just did, I'll use that flathead to kind of push it back in. Let me go ahead and do that again. So kind of keep it there. Then I'll just move it all to this side. Oh, there we go. So now it's free. It's not pinched anywhere. The bottom looks good. There we go. Bottom looks good. Top looks good. And then now it's just a matter of putting things back together. So I'm going to put the neck screw in first. Be careful with these screws because if they fall, it might be difficult to find them on the floor. So that neck screw is in, and then I'm gonna do the back next. So for that one, first thing you do is just slide this into that slot. Then just push that in, slide that screw into there, and screw that one in. And then it's just going back reverse what we did, taking it apart. Okay. So I'll go ahead and do the rest. Actually, let me show you doing the head part. So I have this here, have that here, have that here. You just want to make sure that you do these three, because if you put the head on before doing these, then you're going to be left with a single screw wondering where it goes. That's happened to me before. So same thing with the head. Try not to touch that screen part. Just put this in first. And then I think it's because I'm right-handed, so I always go on the left first. And then I'll slide this in into that channel. Then I'll put the plastic cover here and kind of just hold it. And then the top part kind of just goes underneath and into the side. So once that side is kind of done, I'll just hold it. Let me see here. I'll hold it in place, and then I'll put one of the screws in. Oops. There we go. So put one of the screws in to hold it in place, and then I'll screw that side in. So it's kind of there. Make sure this wire doesn't get pinched, and then I'll put the other side in. There we go. I'll just do one side and then the next. And then the next. So 1, 2, and 3, 4. And once you've done this a couple of times, it just becomes second nature. It's not that difficult to do. I think the fastest time I've clocked myself making these changes has been 15 minutes. So you put that on there. And this goes on a specific way. On Cozmo, it can go on either way, but on Vector, the slimmer side goes to the back. And you know you messed up if you put it on and let's see. And that that screw section is not open. That's just how you know you put it on backwards. So the slimmer side, the narrower side goes to the back. And then you have that gap there where you can see the screw. And then the ears piece, this small plastic part at the bottom goes just here. And then same thing on the other side. So the head is in. So now we can do this lower part. Ideally, I should have done this first, so I don't do what I did, because this kind of makes it a bit tricky. Because this needs to go into this slot. There we go. And then it goes like that. we'll just put that there. Oh. And put this here. I keep. Okay. Now it's not going to fall backwards. And like with all things, whenever dealing with screws, you don't want to use too much force, because then you could strip it, making it difficult to take out or screw in. So just be careful. Don't use too much force, and always use the right screwdriver. And in this case, it's a Phillips 00 screwdriver. Oop, I made a mistake. I forgot the screw over here, but let's go ahead and take this out. And then I'll put that part in, and then I'll put this mark in. It's just the screws and the wheels that are next. And there's nothing to it after that. So there's always one screw that I forget to put in, and then once I've assembled everything, I'll see it and I'm like, oh, where did I forget to put this in? But it's okay. You do this enough that it's not that big of a deal to take Vector or Cozmo apart. I know the first time I did, I was really nervous, but I've taken apart several Cozmos. I've taken apart several Vectors now that it's almost second nature. It's not that difficult to do. Okay. So all that's done. 2 screws for the back. The back slot just goes into there like that. And then this just goes in on the side. Anki did a really good job with these bots. They put them really well, and the thought of just using the same screw for everything just is genius. Okay, so all the screws are taken care of. All that's left are the wheels and the arm. So the wheels, large part goes in front, small one goes in the back. Then it's just the same thing. That one's there. And just like that. And then one on this side. Okay, so here, that one's done. And this one's done. This screw is not for this Vector. That's for a different one. So when you look on your workspace, you shouldn't have any screws left after you do the wheels last. I recently got a DVT. So this is a different Vector. This was the prototype one that we're working on, and I'm gonna be just testing it out. There's some custom OS you can put on there to try and bring it to life. So I'm going to be messing with that. But I just wanted to have one of these because these are rare. There aren't that many that were made. So I might be doing a video on the capabilities of this later in the future. Okay, so let's put this plastic back on. Just line up the holes and put it in. Now for the arms, don't do the bar first. Always do the bottom first. Because if you do the bar first, it just makes putting this bottom section a bit more difficult. So they just slide into the slots and then you go down. And then with this one, go ahead and push it in from one side. And then rotate till you see that plastic clip kind of angled at the bottom, and then try and match it to the slots in the arm. And then with one finger on the other side, just hold this and push it in. And then once it's in, and then that's it. And then now, oh, I need to put the treads back on. Put the tread back on. And then if you see a light, then you know you're good. If you don't see a light, then you need to take everything apart and try and figure out what's wrong. So I'm going to let this charge for 45 minutes to an hour, and then I'm going to test it. The 50-30-40 lasts 40 to 45 minutes from a full charge. You can get an 800 mAh battery, but it doesn't really change. That one will also last 40 to 45 minutes. The way these vectors were made, they were made to charge a 320 battery. Just a quick note, the reason why these lights are red was because I had this vector on mute. So if you double tap, it's no longer on mute. When you place it on the charger, it should be green, going from 1, just indicating that it's charging. So the circuitry is configured for this type of battery. It's not configured for the higher capacity one. So unlike Cozmo, you do see a benefit with going from the regular 320 to the 600. You get up to an hour and a half of playtime. But with Vector, no, you don't get that extra playtime. So going higher than 600 won't yield you extra playtime. You just want to, the only time I always recommend to change the battery is if it lasts less than 15 minutes off the charger. Then that's when you'd want to change your battery. But that's it. Good luck when you work on this. It's not that difficult. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll try to answer as best as I can. All right, see you in the next one.